Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Sunday Messages, and we are continuing with the money series that I've been focused on for the past couple of weeks. And this part of the money series is going to be about debt. So I get asked about debt all the time. I know people have a lot of hangups about debt, whatever that might be, loans, credit card debt, financial mistakes in the past. I get asked about debt constantly, so I'm going to break it down in a podcast episode because personally, I feel that debt is not a topic that is worthy of putting in Money Magic, if I'm being completely honest. I think I've talked about it briefly in Money Magic, but honestly, I think that talking about debt is just so boring, and a lot of the time, focusing on debt makes it worse. So I'm going to break all of this down. I'm just going to give this piece of the money equation away for free because that's how much I hate talking about it. Okay. So I'm just gifting this to you because I don't think that debt is even worth your time, energy, or attention in the way that you've probably been giving it your time, energy, and attention. So let's just snuff all of this stuff out in this episode and make it easier on you. My goal for this is for you to get over the morality piece around debt. So that's what we're going to be doing in this episode today. And we're going to be neutralizing a lot of the emotional charges around debt. So that is my goal. That is my intention for this. And to hopefully provide you with some liberation from what people experience as a really crippling financial thing. And of course, I want to remind all of you that another Money Magic module is coming at the end of this month. It is going to be epic. I have so much to share about money. There's been a lot that I've learned over the past year. I am so excited. It's going to be fantastic. And this, of course, is a really good time to jump into the container because the price will be increasing in April. So right now it's $444. You get all of the modules that I've ever done for Money Magic, and you will get all of the future modules that I do for Money Magic, including the one at the end of this month. So I highly recommend checking it out. It's really good. There's a lot of practical, applicable tools that you use to work with your mental and emotional bodies around money. So it's very much something that you can build from. So it's like the ground layer, the very basics of money, and then it builds from there. And the more that I learn about money, the more I add to the course. So the course grows over time. This is the only class that I have that grows. So as soon as you buy in, it grows and you get more and more and more. So it always increases in value no matter when you buy in. So I highly recommend it. It's my most popular program that I have, and I cannot wait to see you inside. The link will be in the show notes or description box, depending on where you're listening to this. Now let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so the first thing that we need to just get out in the open is what is debt? And of course, debt is paying something off over time with an additional percentage that you add on to it for the luxury of paying it off over time. That's all it is. So nothing that I have just said is good or bad or right or wrong. There is no morality involved in paying something off over time. However, there are a whole bunch of ways that people distort something that's completely neutral, which is debt. So the debt is neutral, but humans start projecting onto debt. So a lot of people conflate debt with being in a deficit. And those two things are not the same thing, in my opinion. Paying something off over time is not the same thing as scarcity. Debt is a choice. Opening up a credit card is a choice. Getting a loan for a house is a choice. Getting a student loan is a choice. These are all free will choices that you are making. So when you are thinking about the problem with debt, that comes down to one of two things. Either the energy of how you are using debt does not feel good, and that's the part that needs to be reconstructed, or how you're relating to your credit card bill is the thing that needs to be revised, or when you're putting something on a credit card needs to be audited in order for you to make sure that there's energetic integrity when you are using debt. When you are using a credit card or a loan of some sort or anything like that, you want to make sure that the energetics of that are really clean. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The other piece is, what are you projecting onto it? Are you in a story about debt? I've heard a lot of stories about debt, like, I don't know, I'm ashamed, or people won't like me if I have debt. Or I've also heard I'm not a good citizen if I have debt. Or there's all sorts of things that people start projecting. The idea of owing someone something it just comes with all of this emotional clutter. And once again, this puts a lot of people in a situation where you kind of start dealing with a boogeyman. Because I can't reasonably move you in any other direction other than telling you the debt isn't moral or immoral. This idea that you're going to be put on the naughty list for having debt isn't real. The only reason why you're feeling bad about this is because you're feeling bad and then projecting that onto the debt. The debt is neutral. It doesn't mean anything about you. It's you made a decision to pay something off over time, and that's the end of it. Your relationship to how you're navigating the debt, or when you're spending, or what you're applying to it, or how you're paying the credit card bill, those are all more nuanced things where you do want to, again, stay in that emotional and energetic integrity when you are putting money into something, including debt. You can pay your credit card bill in pain or pleasure. The choice is yours. You can feel shame or you can feel accomplishment. And there comes a point when you just kind of have to decide, how do you want to do this? How's the whole thing where you're beating yourself up about the debt, or for having a big loan or something like that? At a certain point, you just need to drop the punishment of yourself, because nobody else is doing that. You're the only one who is doing that, unless you are sharing too much information with your parents or other people whose business it isn't. But the only thing that really makes debt difficult for people is the emotional component. If you allow debt to be neutral and you just own your choices and you make sure that any debt moving forward, anything you put on a credit card, any loans you take out are energetically correct, the loan or the debt, the credit card is not going to be a big deal. Because this is an emotional game that you're playing. There is no objective morality piece to this equation. That's just not there. All of it is projections, judgments, and stories. So if you clean up the emotion and you clean up the story and you clean up how and when you are engaging or taking on more debt or paying debt, that will resolve all of this. Debt isn't complicated. This is why I don't think it's a topic that is worthy of going into money magic, because it's not complicated. So instead of attaching all of the boo-hoos to the debt, just remind yourself, I'm paying this off over time, period. There's not anything more to it. Any other story or iteration or expression of that is likely going to be more harmful unless you can tap into the abundance of debt. So that's actually what a lot of wealthy people are able to do, is they wield debt in a way that they access abundance through. That is also another path, another avenue in which you can use debt. So depending on your emotional state and your perspective, debt can be a way for you to experience a lot of abundance. It can be a luxury, it can be a privilege, it can be something that you're grateful for, or it can be something that you beat yourself up with. And all of this is up to you. So typically with debt, similar to the last episode, how I mentioned, you don't need to aim at this extreme ecstatic joy. Instead, you can just aim at neutrality. The debt doesn't mean anything. There is no meaning to this. You are not on the naughty list for having debt. It's just not a thing. You can totally put it out of your mind. I'm paying this off over time, period. That's it. There's nothing more to it. Remind yourself of that again and again and again. Now, if you can get into the space where you feel into the abundance of debt, which I know sounds kind of like an oxymoron, how is that even possible? But you see corporations, you see real estate investors, you see people use debt all the time. This has nothing to do with the debt itself. This is about your emotions, the story that you're telling, and how you are energetically going into a debt or a loan or whatever. Now, if you are needing to repair your relationship with your debt, one thing that helped me when I did max out a credit card at one point when I was in my early 20s was reminding myself that at that time, my life imploded. I lost my best friend. I lost my living situation. I lost all my clients. I had 2 cars that were totaled. Like everything blew up in my life. And I had to live on a very small credit card at that time. I am not mad that I maxed out a credit card in my early 20s because I was living off of $400 a month and barely scraping by. I am not mad at myself at all. I am like, thank God I was able to have that debt. Thank God I had that credit card. I'm so appreciative of the fact that I had increased the limit for a few years of just building my credit a little bit over time, and I was able to have that amount of money to live, right? So if you do have the ability to access appreciation, then you're in an even better position. Another way that I neutralize debt personally is by looking at all of the money that I receive or all of the money that I have. And then without getting into the technicalities or specifics, I just remind myself, if I wanted to pay off that credit card today, I could. Or if I wanted to put $300 down, or whatever it is that you have, just remind yourself that your ability to dump all of your cash into the credit card and make that number go down is available to you. I'm not recommending you do that. What I am saying is play the mental game with yourself of course I could put more money into that credit card. Of course I could pay that down. Of course I could eliminate that debt today. Of course. Like, turn the debt into it's no big deal. It's not. I have seen people in so many different financial situations. I've seen people who have had 6-figure tax bills that have wiped them out and had almost no money left. I've seen people who have had like $250,000 in student loans that they weren't even able to get out of. I've seen people file for bankruptcy. I've seen people abandon their mortgages. Like, there are so many different things that people experience. And what it comes down to is, what are you making it mean? What are you projecting onto the debt? As far as I'm concerned, there is no financial problem that cannot be solved energetically. There is nothing that God can't fix. Nothing. So your debt, your $10,000 credit card, or your $200,000 student loan, or whatever, is no issue when you're showing it to God. Once again, this is always what it comes down to in terms of the energetic backbone of navigating debt. That's also really, really, really important, because if you are dumping money into your debt, you're taking all of your cash and you're pouring it into, bringing your debt down, but you're doing it out of fear and shame and guilt and obligation, that is not going to work, because the action that you're taking is backed by shame. or fear or whatever funky energetic tone, or avoidance, right? Financial avoidance is another way that you can really screw yourself up if you just want to bury your head in the sand and not look, rather than simply repairing the emotions around it. That's not going to work either, because the subtext is a negative emotion. Underneath avoidance is a bad feeling. So no matter where you're at, this is an emotional game. This is how close to neutrality can you get. If you can at least get to neutrality when it comes to debt, a lot of this is going to clear up, and the next right steps or the solutions are going to make themselves evident. Don't try to pay off debt while holding shame and fear. I would make this a practice. If there's one thing that you can do for yourself, it's like before you go and pay something off, or you pay your credit card bill or whatever the case, write a check. I don't know what it is that you're doing. Just check yourself. Are you operating from fear right now? Are you putting that extra $200 towards debt out of feeling like a bad person for having debt? You don't want the action pieces to be backed by poor energetics and negative emotion. That is one thing you're not going to want to do. Clean up the emotions. Get clear on the emotions. Aim for neutrality. Aim for being gentle on yourself and reminding yourself that this is only as big of a deal as you make it. So this is where consciousness, but also minimization and neutrality, when you're combining these together, it's going to help you a lot. This isn't about avoidance, right? I'm not saying neglect your credit card bills. I'm saying pay your credit card bills in a way that feels good, in a way where you feel accomplished, in a way where you're, celebrating yourself or acknowledging what you've done, because that is going to gain momentum in terms of the emotional state that you're in. If you are just in a shame rabbit hole around your financial state, then more and more of those experiences are going to find you. That's how the parking citations find you, and the little shit that piles up, and the little things that inspire shame. Because if you're already in shame, you're an energetic match for more shame. That's what you're an energetic match for. So you have to ditch the shame around this topic in order to start calling in something better. So if you were to get yourself, and in the beginning, it's kind of a big leap, but if you get yourself from shame and you take the emotional steps towards feeling accomplished, you're going to shift from being a magnet for shame to a magnet for accomplishment. And how you make that emotional journey is through storytelling and inner dialogue. I am literally giving you the secret to clearing up your debt. If you really understand what I'm saying, if you can hear me when I'm telling you, you need to make your way from the negative emotions around debt to the positive emotions around debt. The debt will resolve. Period. If you feel empowered when you say, of course, I could put X amount of dollars towards debt today if I wanted. If I wanted to pay off that credit card today, I can. You will then become an energetic match for, of course I can pay it. Doesn't that feel a lot better than, I can't believe I have this amount of debt. Oh my God, this is so terrible. That's 100% story. That's emotion and story. There's absolutely no objective truth to that. Because depending on what kind of financial situation you're in, $10,000 of debt might be no big deal. Or $10,000 of debt might feel like the thing that is going to wipe you out for good. Like that will be the final nail in the coffin. Right? So neither of those are objective truth. It's entirely perceptual. So that is what I will say about debt. Change the story that you're telling about debt, about whatever type of loan, mortgage, car payment, credit card bills, whatever. neutralize it, tell a different story, say things that are more supportive and more in alignment with what you would rather feel. Feelings of neutrality are a lot better than feelings of worry and shame. So that's why I'm encouraging you, just remind yourself what the reality of debt is. You're not on a naughty list. I promise you, that's not a thing. No one is sitting up in heaven and they're like, oh my God, this person has a lot of debt. Nobody is doing that. That's not happening. Nobody is keeping track of this but you and whatever financial institution you're in a relationship with, or whatever loan shark you owe. Oh, you know what I just reminded myself of by making the loan shark joke? I also want to mention that I understand that there are some residual death pictures that can come up around debt. So, we've all seen some movie about like illegal gambling or like a fixed boxing match where it's like there's a character that's like $40,000 in the hole that owes this gangster money and like all of this stuff. And there's like a lot of fear and death pictures that are kicked up around debt. And once again, I want to remind you that no matter what paradigm has existed in the past, and no matter what financial experts say about terrible financial situations, I don't listen to any of that nonsense. The only thing that I consult is God. That's it. Take it up with God. Don't take it up with other humans, because humans are going to start projecting their bullshit onto your debt unless you're talking to someone who's really energetically clean and has a healthy relationship with debt. So unless you're talking to someone who is 100% clear, you're going to get a lot of projections. You're going to get a lot of financial fear projected onto you from other people. So be mindful of that, okay? The comfort and ease and overall relationship that you have with any type of loan or debt is emotional. It's emotional, it's energetic, and it's very wise for you to do that work first before you start doing something like paying more. Because if that paying more is energetically off, if it's really, really misaligned, then it's not going to serve you. Do the emotional piece first. Do the neutrality work first. Get your storytelling right. And let that be what helps inform future decisions around debt, and see how that works. So I hope this episode has been helpful. One more time, you're not on a naughty list for having debt. There is nothing immoral about having debt. This is an emotional experience that you're having in relationship to a common financial situation. So let yourself off the hook. Be gentle with yourself. And remember, none of this is a big deal from an energetic standpoint, from a God standpoint. None of it is a big deal. So let's calm down around debt, okay? Let's chill out a little bit around debt. Yes, it can be paid off. Yes, you can be relieved of debt. Yes, I'm in full agreement for each and every one of you who are in a financial situation that doesn't feel good, for you to clear the emotions around it and for you to receive more than enough to pay it off in its entirety and tap into the feeling of infinite financial expansion. Hallelujah, amen. I hope this has landed for many of you. And of course, if you know someone who could benefit from hearing this episode, please send it to them so that we can just neutralize this whole stuff, so that you can pay it off faster, so that you can pay it off with more ease, so that it doesn't scare you and keep you awake at night, and you can simply get back to enjoying having a relationship with money. So, if you are ready to cultivate a really, really beautiful relationship with money, I strongly recommend that you get into Money Magic. It's awesome, it's epic, and we're going to have a lot of fun in there. So go ahead and check out the description box or the show notes if you want to learn more about Money Magic, and I will talk to you all next time. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.